Travel is a big part of my life. So far, I've been to 31 states and 17 countries, and I have no plans of stopping anytime soon. I love checking out new places, learning about different cultures, trying new foods, and experiencing life in a place that is totally different from the US. As cliche as it might sound, I believe traveling is the best teacher, and I've definitely learned a lot over the years. As a designer, I tend to look at things a bit differently than other people. While most people aren't paying attention to design elements in their everyday lives, I'm looking at things like colors, layout, typography, and other elements that I find interesting all the time. I guess it's just a hazard of the job. And designs look really different depending on where you are in the world. And of course they do. Design reflects the culture, history, and everyday realities of the people it's made for. What might be considered beautiful, practical, or even appropriate in one country could be totally out of place in another part of the world. Local customs, materials, climate, religion, and a lot of other things go into shaping design in different parts of the world. So in this new series, I'm going to explore design around the world and see how it compares to design in the US. And we're kicking things off with one of my favorite places in the world, Japan. In 2023, Mark and I visited Tokyo, and it quickly became one of our favorite trips together. Tokyo is this wild world where you feel like you're simultaneously in the future, yet stuck in the past. Temples that are 100 years old are surrounded by these huge futuristic-looking buildings. You can have a robot serve you lunch, but their preferred method of payment is cash. You can walk into these beautiful buildings with traditional Japanese architecture that are hundreds of years old, but when you go into the bathroom, they'll have a really futuristic toilet. Seriously, you need a manual to figure out how to use some of these toilets. Another interesting thing that I noticed about Japan were their website designs. When was the last time you visited a Japanese website? Well, unless you've been to Japan or you have a fascination with Japanese culture, you probably never have. But if you're a designer or just somebody that's fascinated by different cultures, take a look at Japanese website design. It's wildly different than what we see in the US, and it's honestly pretty fascinating. The look of Japanese websites reminds me of the internet of the early 2000s. Things are pretty cluttered, there isn't a lot of white space, there's really bright, bold colors, and things aren't always very mobile friendly. But why is this? Let's unpack some possible explanations. Mark and I have been to a lot of big cities like New York, Los Angeles, Paris, London, but they all feel really small next to Tokyo. The metropolitan area is roughly the size of Delaware, and when you look at it from above, it really feels like Tokyo goes on forever, like everywhere the light touches is Tokyo. With around 37 million people, it is the city with the largest population in the world. In comparison, New York City, the biggest city in the US, is home to around 8 million people. While the city is huge, packing 37 million people into a space the size of Delaware doesn't give you a lot of living space. To compare, the populations of the entire state of New York, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut are less than what the population of Tokyo is. The point is, Tokyo has a lot of people in it. Almost everywhere you go in Tokyo feels like Times Square on steroids. Lights, sounds, colors, and billboards advertising you things everywhere. Now, Mark and I don't speak Japanese, but it definitely felt like the billboards were just screaming to you, "Buy now, buy now." Which is another weird contradiction because the Japanese people are known for their minimalist approach to living. It's a huge part of their culture, and I almost think it comes as a necessity because homes are generally pretty tiny, especially in Tokyo. During our time in Tokyo, we met a bartender who said that she hadn't cooked a meal at home in over 2 years because her apartment didn't have a kitchen. And apparently, that's a pretty common thing in Tokyo. In fact, after I did some research on apartments, I found that the hierarchy of apartment layouts in Japan is a lot different than here in the US. This is how things are broken down. R equals a single room. L means it includes a living room. D includes a dining area. And K includes a kitchen or a cooking area. An apartment labeled 1R would be a one-room apartment. Now, that's not one bedroom, that means one room. Just one room, that's it. An apartment labeled 2LDK would mean 2 bedrooms plus a living dining room and kitchen area. The average size of an apartment in Tokyo is around 700 square feet. And if you're lucky enough to have an apartment that big, you're probably sharing it with multiple people. So yeah, not a lot of room for extra stuff. So despite being constantly surrounded by ads trying to sell you things, you don't have a lot of space, so you have to be really intentional with what you purchase. And in order to make an informed decision, you need a lot of information. While US websites seem to be more geared toward the impulse buy, a Japanese website gives you plenty of information so visitors can make an informed decision. Let's compare the Toyota US website versus the Toyota Japan website. The US version of the website looks what I would describe as a more modern website. Lots of nice big images, sliders, call to action buttons, and a clear separation between different sections. If we go to Toyota Japan, we have a completely different experience. While they do take advantage of things like sliders and have nice call to action buttons, the design feels a lot less modern than what I'm used to seeing. Things aren't going full screen, there's more text on the page, and there isn't that clear separation between sections. It looks like what a modern site would have looked like maybe 5 years ago. There's also no mention of prices on the homepage. In fact, I don't see a price until I click this button and scroll all the way down to almost the bottom of the page. On the US website, prices are front and center. It definitely seems like Japanese people are more interested in getting information about a product, while in the US, we want what we would consider the most important information, like price, front and center on the page. One more thing that backs up this idea is how they have these important notices and news sections. Most US company sites really don't do blogs anymore, so it kind of shows how much the Japanese care about sharing information. While blogging for your business is nearly dead in the US, it seems to be thriving still in Japan, as I noticed this on a lot of different Japanese websites I visited. I mentioned before that basically everywhere we went in Tokyo felt like Times Square on steroids. The Japanese are definitely into using bright, bold colors in their advertisements, while the US tends to be a little more subtle. The Starbucks website is a really good example of this. If we go to the US homepage, the colors all fall into that green and brown Starbucks color palette that we're so used to seeing in their stores. The Japanese homepage is totally different. The colors are much more bold, bright, and vibrant. The same thing holds true for the McDonald's website. Look at the differences in the images on the US homepage versus the Japanese homepage. For a country that in some ways is so tech forward, thank you. It was a little surprising to me that some of the websites for very popular Japanese brands weren't super mobile friendly. One reason could be that Japanese people had smartphones about 10 years before we did. Their first 3G smartphone came out in 2001. We didn't get that technology till around 2007. And the phone that really changed it all for us was the iPhone, which ushered in this shift towards mobile-first design. Bigger text, bigger images, more minimalist designs. Basically, everybody wanted to look like Apple. But Japan was all been there, done that. Ironically, their early lead in smartphone technology may have shaped their website designs in unexpected ways. Instead of evolving alongside the global shift towards minimalist, mobile-centered designs, they became deeply rooted in older mobile conventions, which is something that still lingers to this day. Another factor that could be shaping Japanese website design is their aging population. The average age in Japan is 49.8 compared to 38.5 in the US. Older users tend to be more hesitant to adopt new technology, having the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" mentality. As a result, design trends that were popular in America about a decade ago still have a strong presence in Japan today. It's possible that company leaders, who are often older, don't want to overhaul an entire system that's functioning pretty well. If we look at the Gap's website, the US version looks clean and very modern, with professional images and minimal text throughout. The photos on the Japanese version don't appear as polished. In fact, some even look a bit blurry on my screen. There are also sections featuring user-generated content, with casual, unfiltered photos that were clearly taken on phones. This kind of community-driven content was much more popular in the US about 5 to 10 years ago, but isn't really popular now. Content trends now tend to be more heavily curated and influenced by the brand's aesthetics. Even when brands work with everyday people or influencers, the visuals tend to be very high quality and professional, and they're also carefully styled to fit in with a specific look and feel. Japanese culture places strong emphasis on social harmony, order, and collective responsibility. The group often takes precedence over the individual, something that I really wish we would embrace more of in the United States. There are a lot of rules in Japan, and people actually follow them, which makes it an incredibly pleasant and safe place to be. Even in a city as densely populated as Tokyo, things feel extremely efficient and organized. People queue patiently for things, the subways are eerily quiet, and the city is unbelievably clean. Another thing that I wish we would adopt more of in our cities in the US. Honestly, there's a lot we can learn in America about how the Japanese approach public life. The Japanese really like law and order. One major difference between the McDonald's websites in the US and Japan is how they present nutrition and allergen information. On the US website, the details are tucked away in expandable accordion sections, easy to overlook unless you're specifically looking for them. In contrast, the Japanese site is much more direct. The information is detailed, prominent, and easy to access. That got me thinking, are these differences driven by legal requirements? From everything I researched online, it's not. While Japanese law, just like the US, mandates that nutrition information be placed on food packaging, there's currently no specific legal requirements for that information to be placed on websites. However, it seems like many companies provide nutrition and allergen details on their websites voluntarily to help provide transparency and help people, especially those with dietary restrictions or allergies. Again, it seems like this level of information is more of a cultural thing. Give people as much information as possible so they can make informed purchasing decisions. Japanese web design is fascinating, and yes, it's a little quirky, but I had a really great time exploring it. Do all Japanese websites look like they're cluttered and stuck in the year 2000? No. And are my observations universally true for all Japanese people? Absolutely not. The design choices you see are a mix of cultural, historical, and technological factors. There's no single explanation or anything that fits neatly into a box. Also, I'm far from the first person that has discussed this topic. If you're curious to go even deeper, I highly recommend this video by Answer in Progress. It takes a deep dive into Japanese web design, and it's a really great watch. I'd love to hear from you. What country's design style should I explore next? Drop your comment down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!